Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. I do have an unusual request this morning. I'm expecting an important email for my book from my publisher. So I beg your indulgence if I get that email to reply to it during class. I'm sorry to do this, but it's really an important thing, time-wise, from publishing my book. So please forgive me for interrupting class if I do. Okay. Did you all get the email from LA? Not yet? Okay. Well, we'll get to that later today. Okay. Let's do a brief review of last, 2 days ago class. Can someone give me the 8 worldly thoughts that keep us cycling in samsara? No? You're unhappy? Go ahead.
Happy when we acquire something that we want, unhappy when we don't, happy when we feel good, unhappy when we don't, happy when we are well known, unhappy when we aren't, and happy when people speak well of us and unhappy when they don't.
Right, good. I almost forgot the most important thing. We need to take refuge and do the mandala. So Brian, Mike, would you do the honors for us in Tibetan?
Sure. Would you like me to say it or sing it? Spoken or sung?
Spoken.
Okay. Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chuyen Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Drupar Shak. Sangye,
yeah, go ahead.
Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chuyen Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Drupar Shak. Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Chuyen Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparshak.
We usually just do the mandala once. So that's my mistake. Oh, you were doing the refuge and the wish. We need to do the mandala. Sashi Puki.
Oh, I don't know that one. Sorry.
Okay, let's offer the mandala. Here is the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain of 4 continents, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. Okay. When talking with Brian, I keep on calling you Brian because you look like Brian. Okay, I was talking with Mike after class, and I have a little tidbit that most people don't know about, and that's what Ale just sent you. I hope. Let me see if I can find it on my screen. I've got so much stuff on my screen here. Hang on a minute. How am I going to find that?
Venerable Sumati?
Yes?
I post the prayers here in the Zoom chat, so they have it.
Okay, I need to get the Zoom chat up. Some mornings are better than the others. Okay, refuge, yeah. I'm not finding it. Hang on. I can't get that to come up. Well, let's see what I'm going to do. Just bear with me a minute here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So there are three, during the refuge prayer, there are three versions of it that you may get confused by or when you say it. So I just want to describe it. When you're doing your own practice in the morning, the phrase would be Daki Jin Sok, by my giving and the rest. That's you personally. When you're attending a teaching, you would say Daki Chunyen, which is what Mike did this morning. And that means by my listening to the Dharma, instead of by my giving and the rest. And then as the teacher, when you're giving a teaching, you would say Daki Chushe, which is by my explaining the Dharma. When you listen to the refuge prayer being given at a teaching, if you listen carefully to the Tibetan, you'll find this different pronunciation. If you listen to Geshe Michael's recordings, sometimes you'll hear him say Daki Chushe instead of Jinso. So this just, maybe it's adding to the confusion, I don't know. Okay, so today's class are the 4 laws of karma and the 6 problems of life. Last class, we talked about the 8 worldly thoughts that drive us for desire for worldly life. Renunciation is a medicine for the sickness of having desire for this life, thinking that you'll find the one ultimate happiness in this world due to satisfaction of your worldly desires. Now, there's nothing wrong with this life in the sense that you shouldn't say, well, I have desire to have a house, a car, a nice job, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a family. It's just what you'll do for those desires, as we discussed last class. Renunciation is a medicine for the sickness of having desire for this life. This should lead us to reassess our behavior and come to a true understanding that nothing in our old way of life will have any meaning once our body dies. Only the mind stream and its contents will cross into the next life. Now, this shouldn't scare you. It's very important to understand this shouldn't scare you, because as a Buddhist, if you take refuge or having taken refuge, you believe in past and future lives. You are going to go on to another life. Will it be the hell realms? Will it be Buddha paradise? You have control over that by your deeds in this life. It may seem the deeds in your past lives are the ones that you need to worry about. There's no point in worrying about it because you have no control. Well, you have little control over what ripens and when it ripens. But the important thing, the very encouraging and important thing, is the fact that in this life, you can control your future life by how you act in words and deeds, thoughts, words, and deeds in this life. I find that very, very encouraging, very positive. Yes, it's a little scary to wonder about what's ripening now from past lives. But all I can do is react positively to that. And that's what's creating my future. I find that to be a very positive way to look at life. I do like teaching the death meditation. That's a weekend worth of teaching. So maybe by the end of this course, if there are enough of you that are interested, we can decide whether we want to find a weekend in September or sometime soon to teach it. It's a Friday, one class Friday, 3 classes Saturday, 3 classes Sunday. I think you'd find it very, I think you'd find it a lot of fun, actually. I did. It had a profound effect on my life, profound effect. Okay. So what do I mean? If a person threatened you someday in the next month and said, I will come to your house and kill you and the rest of your family, would you wait until day 29 to put locks on your door, or would you run right out and do so immediately? Likewise, we need to lose our ignorant attachment to the way we live now, today, and not put it off till it's convenient. How can we stop ignorant desire for this life? Do we even have ignorant desire for this life? Do we even think in this life, I will do charity now so I will be wealthy in my next life? I think actually, when I say that, it seems a little self-serving. I'll give money now to charity so I'll be wealthy in my next life. I don't give money to charity now to be wealthy in my next life. I give money to charity so that in my next life, I will have the things I need. There's a big difference between wanting to be wealthy in the next life and having the things I need. The wealth I want to have in my next life is the Dharma, frankly. So by teaching and encouraging others to teach, I'm setting the seeds to have access to this material in the future, which is my goal. How do we stop desire for future lives? Right now, you have a consciousness and awareness of existence. Your mind is focused on this class, I hope, and it's a mirror of what is going on in your mind right now. What are you thinking will affect your mind later? Well, proof that we believe in the continuation of the mind is very simple. We go to school knowing that we will learn how to speak, how to write, and all that will stay in our mind stream. This must mean that we believe that our minds, our thoughts, our consciousness goes along in a stream. It seems really simple, but it's true. Think about it. When you went to school and learned all that stuff about Russian history, maybe you forgot it. There's a lot that I forgot. But the point is, you believe that you'll retain that and you will have access to it in the future. So you believe in a mind stream. Just what is a mind stream is hard to nail down. I'm still working on that. When I die, Sumati or David, my current name, for whatever it's worth, will cease to exist. But my mind stream will not. The mind stream that's called David or Sumati in this life will take birth in another body or will become enlightened. So I don't think about, oh, I'm going to die, I'll cease to exist. Now I'm going somewhere next. Hopefully it's not the hell realms, but I guess I'll find out. If I can possibly tell everybody, I will do so. But I have a feeling no one's done it yet, so I have a feeling it's not possible. The cause of one moment of mind is a previous moment of mind. So here's a meditation that I find particularly fun, interesting to do. I'm old enough to remember before video cameras. Back in the day when I was a kid, my dad had a home movie camera, 8mm home movie camera. Bell and Howell, and he took home movies. So if I try and do a meditation of going back in my life, this is regression meditation. You meditate, you start with today, you think about something that happened yesterday, then you think about something that happened a month ago, then you think about something that happened a year ago, then you go back in groups of years. So for instance, for me, if I was doing this meditation, I would say, okay, what happened a week ago or a day ago, a week ago? Then I might skip back to, do I remember the first day at Diamond Mountain? Then I go back. Do I remember the first day I thought I might be a Buddhist? Then I go back. Do I remember the meeting my lovely wife for the first time? Then I go back. Then I go back to my childhood. And this is where it's difficult to have original thought. I can't I've seen so many copies of my dad's home movies. There's plenty of things in my childhood that I don't know if I remember or I remember the home movies. The point of the meditation is to try and get to where you're doing a memory, not a memory of the real event, not the home movie. So for instance, I remember the address and the phone number for the first house I lived in, Skyline 34159, 3343 Helen Lane. When I say those words, it brings back a picture of the house I grew up in until I was 5. Now, when I do that, I remember a funny thing that happened to me in college. I was a reasonably good basketball player, so I played for the freshman team at the University of California, Davis. We were driving to the Bay Area near San Francisco for a basketball game. And I'm driving one of the team cars, and I come around this curve, and I think to myself, I've been here before. It's that deja vu feeling, I've been here before. And it turned out it was the curve that went down into Lafayette, California, where I grew up, down out of the mountains. So I recollected, I had a deja vu of something that had happened, oh golly, that would have been 1973, 20 years, 15, 20 years earlier. So try this meditation. Try and go back as far as you can. So I encourage you to do that. I find it fun. Now, the idea is you go back to birth and you go back to the womb and go back to egg and sperm. That I can't do. I stop usually. I try and go back. The one I remember the most, and this takes me back to probably 4 years old. When I was 4 years old, I believe my brother and I got a wooden train set. And I remember putting that together and playing with that at the Christmas tree in the living room at 3343 Helen Lane. There's another thing I remember. My brother, when he was like 2 or 3 years old, had pneumonia. And there was what do they call them? Not a humidifier. I guess a humidifier. A dark green humidifier my parents had in our bedroom to humidify the air to make it easier for him to breathe. I can remember that dark green humidifier, and I can remember the scene on the curtains in our bedroom. And there's no film footage of that. So I can go back to about 4 years, being 4 years old. So as a fun meditation, try that. I think you'll find it interesting. So what determines the contents of the mind stream, past, present, and future? What determines the circumstances of the future life? To understand this, we need to understand the concept of karma. For me, the key to the belief in karma is the belief in cause and effect. So what do I mean by cause and effect? If you want a tomato plant, you plant a tomato seed. You don't plant an orange seed. You believe by planting a tomato seed, you will get a tomato plant. The overall concept of karma is pretty straightforward, but the principles are very deeply hidden. And it takes quite a while to truly understand that. And in my mind, it takes a direct perception of emptiness to truly understand karma and emptiness. That doesn't mean don't worry about karma. There's plenty to think about with karma, whether you've had the direct perception of emptiness or not. So the definition of karma, or cause and effect, movement of the mind or what it makes us do. Good karma, any action which produces a pleasant result. Bad karma, an unpleasant result. And neutral karma, anything above, other than the other two. I don't really have a good handle on neutral karma, because neutral karma turns into good or bad karma pretty quickly for me because I have an opinion. So what's a good example? It's really hot these days in Tucson, 109, 110 degrees. At night, it only gets down to 90. My wife loves that kind of temperature. I don't. So for her, it's a good thing. For me, it's a bad thing. I don't see how it can be neutral, because the minute I think of something neutral, I have an opinion. You look at this mountainside and you see all the saguaro cactus. Now, someone could say that's a neutral thought. I like saguaro cactus, so I look at it and go, wow, that's cool. Look at all those cactus. So it's not a neutral karma to me. It's a positive karma, a good karma. So I dwell more on considering the good and the bad, not the neutral. 4 laws of karma. Number 1, this is really important. You should know these 4. You should know that they're recited in order, and you should be able to give the definitions. So number 1, karma is definite. A good deed produces a good result. A bad deed produces a bad result. So when a bank robber robs a bank and comes out with a lot of money, a bad deed can't result in a good result, getting the money. So how does that work? Well, he or she was generous in the past, and so that generosity ripens with his or her getting the money. The bad deed is going to ripen in the future as having someone perhaps steal the money from him or her. So when you look at a dictator such as Saddam Hussein, with all those palaces and gold and everything, it looks like being a dictator is what gave him those results. But that's a bad deed, which simply cannot turn out to a good deed. So he must have been generous in the past to get that, what he wanted in the present, and the karma for all the terrible things he did to the citizens of Iraq will come to ripen in the future as not having those things he needs, not having the stuff he stole from the citizens of Iraq. So whenever you see, or whenever you think that doing a bad deed will produce a good result, wrong, pure and simple. Number 2, karma increase. Now, Geshe-la teaches this as it doubles every 24 hours. And I looked hard and long for a scriptural reference to that. And the only one I could find was Pabonka Rinpoche in a teaching he gave on the Vajrayogini Tantra. He said it doubles every 24 hours. Now, I'm not saying Pabonka Rinpoche isn't an excellent resource. I don't mean to even imply that, but that's the only place I've found it. So I asked a Halarampa Geshe, you can be a monk or a nun, you can be a Geshe, which is a certain level of training, or you can be a Halarampa Geshe, which is the top level. That requires many more years of study. So I went to this Halarampa Geshe in South Africa. I was there teaching and he was present, so I had a chance to go make an offering and meet him. And he said, David, it's not so much that there's a geometric progression of doubling every 24 hours. The point is that karma increases. The power of a karmic deed increases. Whether it doubles every 24 hours or every 48 hours isn't important. What's important is that it increases, good or bad. Karma, the power of the karma increases. So a little deed soon becomes tremendously important. That's why a little white lie becomes a big lie. And the karma consequences of that are not something most people want, to not be able to trust other people. So that gets me onto my soapbox about white lies. I challenge you to go through your day, the next couple of days before next class, and every time you say something or think something, stop and think if that's completely true. And if it isn't, stop and think what you could say that would be completely true. So what's a good, for instance? Oh, someone asked me how many pages of my manuscript is, or how many pages of document I got declassified. And to impress them, I want to say it was 1,000 pages of declassified material. Well, I happen to know it's 891 pages. So is telling people it's 1,000 pages a white lie that's okay? I submit it's not. I know the answer is 891, and I should say that. So if you find yourself rounding up, you find yourself exaggerating, I could say about 1,000 pages. That's not as bad as saying 1,000 pages. This all seems probably pretty trivial. But it's really important to realize movement of the mind and what it comes out as action of body and speech. I can't emphasize that enough. It's movement of the mind. So my getting angry at myself, which I've talked about, every time I do that, I'm setting seeds that see some anger in my future life. Period. So if I don't want that, I shouldn't get angry at myself because of my tremor. So really think about it. Now, you could get depressed and say, well, I don't have any control over what I think. You'd be surprised you do. So the next instance, today or tomorrow or between now and Monday, stop and think as you're saying something. Is it the truth? And if it isn't, what would you have to say to make it the truth? This isn't supposed to make you upset or depress you. I'm just trying to show you how in day-to-day life, your practice all 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you have to be vigilant. And that's what the book is about, keeping your book. Makes you think about your actions during the day and what you need to improve in order to make those actions really contributing toward your enlightenment. Okay, so karma is definite. Good produces good, bad produces bad. Karma increases. Trying to think if I have another example. Well, we'll get to the 4 powers in a minute. Number 3, you can't take on someone else's karma. So when we do Tonglen, and I think about someone who's got cancer that I want to help, I can't take on their cancer, but I can take on how I think they feel and their suffering and try and do something about it. But that won't give me any cancer that my karma doesn't already have in store for me to have. That's a really important point. Number 4, karma, once karma is done, it will ripen. It's inevitable. Now, you say to yourself, oh, I did something terrible yesterday. That's going to ripen. I'm going to get depressed. I'm going to go eat ice cream all day. That's my idea of depression, eating ice cream all day. Actually, I haven't done that for a while. So, are we doomed with the karma that we have done that we don't care, that we think are bad? No, because there's something called the 4 powers of purification. So when you say karma must ripen, there is a way to damage the power of that bad seed ripening. You can't eliminate it completely, but you can damage it. So the 4 powers of purification. I like to think of these as the 4 R's: refuge, regret, restraint, and remedy. So number 1, refuge and bodhicitta. You start with the basics. You remember refuge, you're taking refuge in the Dharma as something to help you with your future lives. The logical knowledge you've just planted the seed that will cause you suffering in the future. That's regret. So I've done it. I take refuge in the fact I understand the Dharma to some extent. I regret that I've done it. I restrain myself. Number 3, restraint. Not doing the bad deed again. Now, it's important with restraint not to say you'll never do it again. So I get annoyed when I was still driving. Well, even now that I'm a passenger, I get upset with people on the phone, in their cars using their cell phones. So for me to say, I'll never get up angry at someone on their cell phone again, it's stupid, because chances are when I see someone on their cell phone in the car, I'm going to think they shouldn't be on their cell phone. So what I say instead is, I'm going to try the next time we get in the car and go to grocery store, I'm going to try very hard not to get angry today at someone on the cell phone, instead of saying, I'll never get angry again. So you have to make your restraint reasonable. Then the remedy. The remedy is an action to make up for the bad karma, an antidote. The ultimate antidote is study and meditate on emptiness. There's a whole long list of others that we'll get to later in the class, in the courses. You can make tankas. You can make something called satsas. Have any of you seen those little plaster Paris images? Sometimes they're bigger. Those are called satsas. Maybe we can discuss those in another class. So let's go through those again. So the 4 laws: good karmic deed produces a good result. Bad karmic deed produces a bad result. Number 2, it increases, doubles every 24 hours, or just simply increases. Number 3, you can't take on someone else's karma. And number 4, it will ripen. Now this brings into question the whole idea of rejoicing. If you look in the scriptures, it talks about rejoicing. You take on some percentage of their good karma. We'll talk about that next class. Because there are some caveats to rejoicing. So now, out of all of this, I think, well, maybe we haven't mentioned, there's a way to destroy all the virtue you've accumulated, all the good karmas you've accumulated. And that's by getting mad at a person called the Bodhisattva. Now, since you normally don't know who's a Bodhisattva and who isn't, that means getting mad at anybody is a bad idea. Now, more important than that is the fact that you can protect your karma, the good karma, a good deed, by doing something that's called dedication. So you dedicate a good deed, and that protects it from being destroyed. That seems kind of self-serving, but it's in the literature, and it's apparently true. So when you do a good deed, the important thing is to dedicate it. So what do we mean by dedication? So you've opened a door for somebody. You've gone to a soup kitchen and you've helped serve food to the homeless. So instead of walking out the door and going, well, that's it for the day, I did a nice thing, you walk out of the door and you say, in this case, may the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. That's a good dedication. Now, having said that, what you've done, this seems sort of silly, but it's in the literature and it's one of Lord Buddha's teachings, so I believe it to be true. What you've done is you've made it so that doing something stupid, like getting mad at a bodhisattva, doesn't damage the seed, doesn't destroy your root of virtue, which is your collection of all your powerful good deeds. So just think to yourself, you could just say, here's another one. I worked at the soup kitchen so that I will have, and I did it with wisdom because I know where in the future, if I need help because I'm homeless, then by working at the soup kitchen, I've planted the seeds to have the help I need in the future. Now, it could be that I'm homeless. It could be that I'm wealthy and I need something very important for my work. It doesn't have to be one-to-one food, for instance, in this case. So you need to dedicate a good deed. So you serve dinner to your lovely wife and you say to yourself, you don't have to say it out loud. You say to yourself, I'm providing food for her at the time she wants so that she can teach the class she wants. And by doing that, I'm helping her teach, which is a powerful good deed. So I dedicate it, and that protects it from being destroyed by getting angry at somebody. So if you catch yourself saying it's my karma, but you should really start now going through the day as you know more about karma and emptiness. You should really start now and never catch yourself saying it's my karma, but, and say it's my karma, so. That's, if you do nothing else from this class, from this course, and if you do nothing else other than saying to yourself, stopping saying to yourself, it's my karma, but, and you say instead it's my karma, so, then you've made a huge difference in your life. Huge difference. So watch what you think, say, and do. Don't freak out about it. Look for a habit, a tendency, good or bad. In the case of good, do it more. In the case of bad, stop doing it. Now my computer just did something very weird. I've been having computer problems the last couple of days. My computer tends to lock up. And if you're working on a 400, 300 page manuscript and it locks up and may not save all the work you've been doing, that can be a little annoying. But I'm not getting mad at it. I'm trying to solve it because I know movement of the mind, getting mad at it, even though it's an inanimate computer, getting mad at it, setting the seeds to have mad, angry people in my future, which I do not want to have. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I never look at the chat. Nothing there. So the 4 laws of karma, the 4 powers of purification. This is how you need to live. You need to live your life from now on. There's one of the problems with the ACI courses is what I call the curse. Now you're cursed with knowing how you need to behave. And now the struggle is doing something about it. Are you going to be perfect in the future? Now that you've maybe first learned about karma? Probably not, but that doesn't mean not to try. Now there's something I haven't done today that I need to do. When you teach karma and emptiness, you need to remind people about, when you teach karma, you need to remind people about emptiness. The whole point of karma, the whole reason karma, well, I shouldn't say that. Karma and emptiness are 2 sides of the same coin. Without emptiness, karma would make no sense. Without karma, emptiness would make no sense. So what do I mean by that? Everything in my existence, in your existence, comes from your karma ripening, comes from your karma ripening as projections. So I like to think of it as my karma ripens, then I see it. You're projecting from your mind a karmic seed that ripens, and then you perceive that as being something coming at you, self-existent, and it's not. And the reason we can say it's not is that whole idea with the pen. If the pen was self-existently a pen out there from its own side, a dog would see it as something to write with. A baby would see it as something to write with. Now, a baby might pick up a pen and start scribbling. So does that make the pen self-existent? Well, if the baby wrote out a complete sentence, that would come from my karma to see the baby do that. It wouldn't be that the pen's self-existent. Because if the pen was self-existent, everybody would use it to write. Another good example is my name. Someone seeing me for the first time has no idea who I am. If I was self-existently David or Sumati, they would know because I'm self-existently that. I could be nothing else. And they would call me by that name. But they don't. If they don't know who I am, they have to have the karma to know who I am. And until they have that, I'm not anything to them. So the karma to have my computer acting funny is coming from the potential of it to act funny. If it's self-existent, first of all, a self-existent computer wouldn't work. because the self-existent thing can't change. Changing things cannot be self-existent, and everything in our life is a changing thing, a functioning thing. It has a cause. Because when it functions, so my computer on the screen right now, I see myself and several of you, and I look over in the chat and the chat moves. So the chat changed. So the chat can't be self-existent. The fact that I'm recording a video is a changing thing because each second I'm speaking, the video is getting longer and longer. So it's not self-existent. It's changing. So we're going to be discussing this over and over, and it's going to get old and repetitious, but much of the Dharma is a matter of, how can I put it, repetition, habit. You say to yourself, I can't possibly get a habit of trying to do only good things. I can't possibly stop doing the bad thing. Well, you had the habit of starting to do the bad things, so you can have the habit of stopping to do it. If you're a piano player, you got to being a good piano player by the habit of practicing hard and long and wanting to achieve a goal. I turned out to be a fairly good power volleyball player. I'm 6'3". I had a decent vertical jump, reasonably well coordinated, but it took a lot of practice to reach that. So if I want to practice, it's like meditating. You might possibly say there's no way I can meditate for an hour, which is Geshe-la's stated goal for us. But if you start meditating today, and every week you add a minute to your meditation, by the end of the year, of the 365 days, you would have 5 minutes plus 52, you'd have 57 minutes of meditative skill. You develop the habit to meditate well, but that takes effort. So understanding karma and emptiness, understanding the 4 laws of karma, understanding the 4 powers of purification takes memorizing it so you know the order and the definitions. And more importantly, every time during the day you hear yourself saying, it's my karma, but say it's my karma, so what do I need to do in this instance to have it ripen, to set a good seed, a good karmic seed? That shouldn't sound onerous to you. It shouldn't sound overwhelming to you. I think it should sound as a relief. You now have the beginnings of a plan to make your life very pleasant in the future of this life, hopefully, and certainly in the future, your future lives. I have no reason to doubt that the reason I'm having the success I'm having with this recent book is because of all the time I've spent helping others get what they want in terms of information. There's no doubt in my mind. But that's because I believe in karma and emptiness, and I try and put it into practice throughout every moment of my day, not just when I'm sitting on my cushion. And I don't really sit on a cushion anymore because of my Parkinson's. Take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. Almost everyone I see on the screen is much younger than I am. You have a wonderful opportunity to put into practice all of what we're teaching you. For instance, meditation. If you start meditating and add that 1 minute a week, within a year you could be able to sit on your cushion and meditate for an hour. I used to be able to meditate for about 45 minutes. I can't do that anymore because the medication I take makes me fall asleep. It's pretty funny watching a movie with my lovely wife. I'll sit there watching, I'll fall asleep, and I wake up and the movie's over. And she looked at me, "Did you fall asleep again?" And I said, "Yeah, fill me in on how the film ended." She goes, "Watch it again yourself. I'm not gonna, if you can't stay awake, I'm not gonna fill you in." So the point of that story is treasure the abilities you have now and use them in the way to make your meditations be possible and be good. Don't assume you're going to be able to retire and do that, because you never know what karma is ripening next. So what else do I want to say? We went through the sufferings already. So how do we know the desire not to continue in samsara cycle is renunciation? So here are those phrases from the three principal paths. And this is why I really recommend you memorize something like the three principal paths. So how do you know you've reached renunciation? There is no way to end without pure renunciation. This striving for pleasant results in the ocean of life is because of their hankering for life as well, that beings are fettered. So seek renunciation first. Leisure and fortune are hard to find. Life is not long. Think it constantly. Stop desire for this life. Think over and over how deeds and their fruits never fail, and the cycle of suffering. Stop desire for the future. When you meditated thus and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of cyclic life, and when you begin to think both night and day of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. So the meditation for this week, for the next 4 days, is memorize the four principles of karma and their ramification. I would encourage you as well to do the meditation about regression meditation. Try going back as far as you can in your life and see how far back you can get. And I think it's really fun. Plus, it gives me a chance to see my folks again. My mom passed away in 2015, and my dad, and when did he pass away? Golly, 97. So when I do this regression meditation, I see both my parents alive, and it's fun to talk to them. There are lots of positive things about doing the regression. Okay, this is a really short class. Are there any questions? I don't know that I'd see them on the screen.
I had a question about dedicating deeds.
Yes,
So is it more important like what we're saying to dedicate, or the fact that we're like just as long as we're dedicating it, it doesn't matter what words we use or what intention we use, just as long as we're, dedicating it to something or making the acknowledgement?
the dedication should be, well, how can I put it? The important part of the dedication is that you're saying to yourself, by doing this, well, that's renunciate, that's rejoicing, but it kind of covers it. I dedicate this to my future enlightenment, so to where I can help all sentient beings. that's about as short a dedication as you could have, and that's perfectly good. I've never heard that there's one or more dedication that's more powerful. It's really what's in your mind as you do the dedication. If you're saying, I just did something good, I need to throw a dedication on it and then get on with my day. No, that's not the most powerful pure dedication, but a sincere dedication. I dedicate this because I want to know in the future that I'm going to have the opportunity to learn the Dharma. So for instance, teaching versus just saying, well, that was a nice class, I'm glad I came. Rejoicing practice. I have a kind of a pet peeve about rejoicing practice. When you rejoice, you're rejoicing in the fact, when I rejoice, I say to myself, I rejoice in getting this information from my book. And I rejoice because I got this information because I helped someone get the information they needed down in another life. So I rejoice in doing that I set the seeds to get what I need in the future. Just saying, oh, it was really good to get that information. That's not rejoicing. That's not the rejoicing practice I like to see my students do. I mean, it's good to feel good about it, but it's most important in my mind to put the seed in your mind that the reason that happened was because of something you did for someone else in the past, and it's ripening now in your present. And if you want that to happen in the future, you need to keep helping the people like you did in the past. And that's why I say the past is the present and the present is the future. If you can keep that analogy, that platitude, I guess, in your mind, then your rejoicing becomes, I think, extremely powerful. But just sitting back and thinking, oh, I had a good day today, I helped person do this, and I helped person do that. That's one form of rejoicing. But the powerful form, in my mind, the most powerful form of rejoicing is to realize that by rejoicing, you're setting the seeds for the future. That to me is what coffee meditation is all about.
Gotcha. And then is there something that the dedication that we learned a couple classes ago, like by the power of the goodness, may all beings complete the collection of wisdom, and
Yeah.
is that like part of it? Like, what would that be used for? Or
Well,
is
that's
that
a good dedication. That's a perfectly good dedication. At the end of a teaching, you dedicate so that you'll get more teachings in the future. I have 2 pages worth of dedication I recited every day, multiple times a day during my 3-year retreat. So yes, the dedicating the goodness of the deed, by the goodness of what I just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So by the goodness of serving food at a soup kitchen, may all beings, including myself, complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. That's a great dedication. That covers all the ground. That's showing complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. That's setting the seed. That's saying, I did this so that I can get here and be that. So that, yeah, that's a perfectly good one.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for a good question. I still can't get over, you have a doppelganger, Mike. Well, the Brian I know is my age and has gray hair. So you wouldn't recognize him as looking at you as your twin. But
And my beard's starting to go gray, so maybe in a couple years.
well, actually, I had an interesting thing on September 17th. I'm giving a 1 hour class for the Asian Legacy Program on rejoicing. And they want a picture of me. And I'm thinking of sending them a picture from my high school annual, because I think some of the pictures of me as a kid or as a youth are pretty funny. I have one particularly nice picture I want to send, but I think I think it's one of the best pictures ever taken of me. But my wife says they don't want a picture of what I was like when I was 20. They want a picture now. So I'm not sure. I'm going to send them several and see what they do with them. I sent several to another student for use, and she picked one off the internet that's about our trip to Malaysia. It's a nice picture of my wife and I, but that's not the picture I wanted up on the advertisement, but no big deal. Okay, let's dedicate the goodness of what we've just done in this class. By the goodness of what I've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. In Tibetan, Gewadi Kewu Kun Sunam Yeshe Zokso Shing Sunam Yeshe Lejongwe Dampa Kuni Tupar Sho. Brian, I'll recite the offering the mandala and the refuge for you. So offering the mandala. Sashi Puki Jukshin Meto Tram Rira Blinkshin Yinde Gimbadi Sange Shindu Mikte Owargi Drokun Namdak Shingwa Chupar Sho Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame off refuge. Sange Chudam Zoki Chognam Chanchu Bardu Dagni Kyatsu Chi Daki Jinsa Kipe Sunam Ki Goa Penchir Sange Drupar Sho. Now, traditionally, when someone leads these openings, there's an what they call an umze in the monastery. You wait. So if I'm doing this, I would start with Sashi, Buki, and then you join in. You wait till the person doing the mandala offering or the refuge starts, then you would join in. So hope that helps. Okay. We'll see you all on Monday. Do the meditation, regression meditation, and do the meditation on the 4 laws of karma and the 4 powers of purification. If you memorize nothing else, memorize those. You should know the 4 laws and the order they're in and the 4 powers of purification. There's a whole weekend teaching on the 4 powers of purification we could also do. Oh, I know the other thing I wanted to say. We have 11 classes, and the review is the 11th one. I will offer a 12th class, which is a presentation similar to what Geshe Michael does, using pictures to go through the 3 principal paths, because some of you may find that easier to use for a meditation. So that'll be class 12. There's no pressure to attend. If you'd like to attend, let Ali know, and we'll pick a day to do it. And if even just one of you want to do it, I'm more than happy to teach. I never know when the one student I'm teaching is going to make a huge difference in their life. And so I'll teach if just one of you show up. So have a good weekend. Have a nice cool weekend. I hope it's cooling off. Is it hot in Moscow now? Yes, no?
A little bit hot, like 20 degrees with something, quite hot for Moscow.
Well, it's funny, quite hot for Moscow is probably 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cool. What is, let's see, body temperature is 98.6. And what's that, and what's the body temperature in Fahrenheit? 30 something. Well,
Yeah, 36 in Celsius.
36. So 40 degrees would be 42 or 43 would be pretty toasty. No, I've got a little fun fact for you. It has nothing to do with the Dharma, but it's one of the fun facts that I learned in physics. There is now we know that Fahrenheit and centigrade are two different temperature systems, but there's a temperature that's both the same in Fahrenheit and Celsius. And for those interested, well, it's a long thing to explain. Minus 40 degrees Celsius is the same as minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a little fun fact for you to share with people when they ask, what's the temperature, the same temperature in Fahrenheit and Celsius? I know, minus 40. So another random thought in this somewhat fractured brain of mine. It was actually a question on a final in physics. Okay, enough rambling. Take care. We'll see you all on Monday. Do your homeworks and quizzes. We need you to become teachers. Oh, who's the baby? Cornelia. What's your baby's name?
That's Maximilian.
Maximilia.
Maximilian, yes.
How old's Maximilia?
7 months.
7 months.
Mhm.
Hi, Max. Oh, she waved to me.
Ja,
Wow.
Maxi. Oh, lachst du mal.
How many kids do you have?
7. 7 kids.
7. Oh, you can't
Yes.
possibly be old enough to have 7 children.
6 boys and 1 girl.
Wow. I grew up in a family of 5.
Oh,
Okay. Well, good weekend,
Cool.
everybody. Love you all. Bye-bye.